What's up everybody, you're watching Model Aviator, I'm Adam, and this week we've got something pretty cool for you, something a little bit different. You'll notice we've got our Twimber unassembled on the bench. There's a reason for that we'll get to in a few minutes. When it comes to twins, Horizon's been killing it lately. Last year they came out with that gorgeous D18, this year the Twimber and the version 2 EC1500. All those airplanes are very cool in their own right, and they all have something in common. They all are equipped with the Avian Dual ESC. That's one ESC that handles the work for both motors. They all also have a 10% differential thrust mixed in from the factory, and that is adjustable. Now at 10%, these airplanes are capable, but not as capable as they potentially could be. So fast forward to recently, and I've taken notice of another twin that another company is coming out with. And I'm very impressed with what that airplane can do. It is capable of super tight flat spins. It can do double and triple hammerheads. And what makes this airplane capable of doing that is not really anything that we're not familiar with. We were doing that with multiplex twin stars years ago. When you have a dual ESC system, you can put them in separate channels, do a mix in your transmitter for differential thrust, and you can achieve full power on one side and nothing on the other. And when you can do that, you can make a twin do some crazy stuff. So that got me to thinking, if we turn the differential thrust up on one of these Horizon twins, what would it do? Could we make it as capable as that new twin that I'm seeing, as capable as our twin stars 10 years ago? That's what this video is about. We're going to show you a neat little piece of kit that makes programming an Avian ESC super simple. We're going to show you how to use it to adjust the differential thrust on our Twimber all the way up as far as it will go, and then we're going to take it to the field and see what happens. And who knows, if we still have a Twimber when we're done, this might be an option for you, and it might add something really cool to your Horizon twin. So let's get to it. This is the Spektrum ESC Programmer version 2. It works on Avian Air ESCs and Firma Surface ESCs. Neat little piece of kit. You'll notice on one side there's a provision for a balance lead. It doubles as a LiPo checker. On the other side, you'll see there's a USB port where you can hook this thing to a PC and download firmware updates to your ESCs. You'll also see the ESC port. We actually plug the ESC into it. And then there's an external battery port for use when the ESC you're programming does not have a built-in BEC. Now worth noting, you can plug this directly into the program lead coming from your ESC in your airplane. You don't have to use an extension. We're only going to use an extension so that we can get this thing on the bench and film it to show you what we're doing. And the idea is we're going to show you how this thing works and how intuitive it is. It's also worth noting that with a lot of Avian ESCs, if you have the right transmitter, you can adjust that ESC and adjust parameters in forward programming on your transmitter, but you can't do that on all of them. Regardless, I find the menus and just understanding the parameters that I'm changing and navigating it so much easier with this versus doing it through forward programming in the transmitter, which is why we have it. So we're going to show you how this thing works, show you how you change parameters and save them. We're going to turn the differential thrust on our Twimber all the way up to kill, as far up as it will go. And then we want to see what happens, because right now one of the caveats is that you can't assign that to a switch. So you set the differential thrust and it is what it is. That's how you have to fly the airplane. You can't turn it on and off from the transmitter. That may be a firmware update that we get later on. But for now, you just have to fly it. So that is where the big question mark is for me. When we turn this all the way up, how sensitive is the rudder going to be? Is it going to be flyable? Is it going to be ridiculous? I'm not sure. So we're going to get this done, take it to the field. I'm going to try to fly the airplane normally, and then of course explore what kind of crazy stuff we can do with it. And then we'll meet you back here and we'll give you a bit of a debrief and see if maybe this is a viable option for you with one of your Horizon twins. So check this out. We've got the Twimber powered up. We do not have the transmitter on, and of course we don't have the motors plugged in because the wing's not on. You don't have to do any of that. These are your programming cables for the two motors. I'm just going to take one of them and plug in an 18-inch extension. We're going to plug the other end of that into the ESC port on our programmer. Okay, we wanted to take you through right from startup, so when you plug the programmer in, that's the first thing you're going to see. You're going to go to select and hit select, and it will connect with the ESC. And when you see the first parameter come up, there it is, brake type, you know it's ready to go. Select goes through the different parameters, edit changes those parameters, and save saves the changes that you made. You got brake force, cutoff type. You can actually choose how many cells manually or set it to auto. Cutoff voltage, BEC voltage, startup time, motor timing, motor rotation clockwise or counterclockwise, active freewheeling, thrust reverse, and differential thrust. That's what we're interested in changing. The Twimber comes with a 10% mix from the factory. It goes up in 10% increments every time you change that parameter, all the way up to 50%. That's as high as it goes. If you hit it again, it turns it completely off. So if you wanted to do that, you could. But we're actually here to crank this thing up to kill. So we're going to put it all the way to 50%. We're going to hit save, and that's it. We're done. Do the same for the other motor. And now we've changed our factory differential thrust mix from 10% to 50%. I'd say that went well. I have to say, we knew that it was going to be sensitive to rudder inputs, so we put about 80% expo in, and that turned out to be way the heck too much. We settled on 50% expo for a 50% differential thrust mix. And some may wonder, why does it only go to 50%? Why not 100? Well, you only need to go to 50%. At 50%, you've split the difference at full deflection, and that's all you can do. You can't go any higher than at full deflection at any throttle setting, having one motor running and one motor off. So that's why only 50%. And as it turns out, being in that state doesn't really have an adverse effect on the airplane, and just flying with rudder, so to speak, at the lower throttle settings. Of course, you don't have to go to the extreme, but when you do, just know, especially at the higher throttle settings, that interesting things are going to happen. The best way I can explain how this airplane flies this way relative to rudder is that it is very intuitive, and rudder inputs work like normal until you decide to get aggressive. And then when you get aggressive and you put that rudder gimbal to the extreme, especially at higher throttle settings, it is just a lot more aggressive than what you're used to. So I would say that this is definitely viable for any of you that want to make your Horizon twin capable of doing this, but I would go up in increments. If you're timid about it, I wouldn't do what we did and go from 10% to 50% right off the bat. Go to 20 and then 30 and then 40 and work your way up. You may find that somewhere in that happy medium is just plenty for you. You may end up where we are. Regardless, it's going to be flyable, and if you work your way up slowly, you're going to have an easy time figuring out how you need to adjust things so that it's intuitive and easy for you. But my buddy Dustin flew it. He loved it. I think it's pretty simple. As far as flying, it doesn't really feel a whole lot different, like I said, until you get extreme, and then it's really extreme. Another thing that we need to tell you is that we did bend. This puts a lot of stress on the rudder servo, and the rudder push rod. And the rudder and the servo are up to the task, but the push rod, where it comes out of the fuselage to the rudder, was not. We actually bent that just under flight forces doing some of this stuff. So we made a little modification. We cut the Z-bend off the end. We slid a carbon tube to keep that from bending all over the push rod. We anchored that to the fuselage with a zip tie, and then just used a quick connect on that end as well, just like the quick connect at the front, and that solved our problem. We put about 6 or 7 flights doing all that crazy stuff and being really aggressive, and the rudder push rod is fine, so we just thought we'd mention that to you. So if you'd like to do this with your twin, get yourself one of these. Works great, makes it super simple, and over the course of your flying career with Avian ESCs, I'm sure you use it for other things, not just making your Horizon twin cray-cray. So we'll put a link in the description where you can go straight to that. We'll have our normal affiliate link there. If you need anything from Horizon or Tower, when you go through those links, it helps us out when you do that. Heidi and I really appreciate you supporting our efforts. Thank you very much when you do that. Happy flying, everybody. If you decide you want to get cray-cray with a Horizon twin, we just showed you how. Enjoy. Oh, and we'll see you next week with something cool with wings.